Tantra Illuminated with Dr. Christopher Wallace is a journey through the depths of the human experience, as viewed through the lens of the tradition called non-dual Shaiva Tantra. This multi-format podcast delves into the fascinating world of classical Tantra and its intersections with philosophy, neuroscience, psychology, human development, and the broader world of spirituality. Today's episode is a scriptural reading. Now we encounter Chapter 5 of Abhinavagupta's Tantrasāra, the Essence of Tantra. And in this chapter, we receive very specific practices that you can actually do. Abhinavagupta begins the chapter by recapitulating Chapter 4 briefly, and then moves on to the content of Chapter 5, which involves practices of the body-mind that can enable awakening to the true nature of reality. To fully understand exactly how to do these practices, it's necessary to compare the writing in Tantrasāra with the parallel passages in Abhinavagupta's Tantraloka, and to investigate the commentary on Tantraloka by Jayaratha. So, having done that homework, I'm happy to present, following the translation that you'll hear, a guided meditation incorporating all the details found in these three texts. For the practice is not possible to do correctly without consulting Tantrasāra, Tantraloka, and its commentary. So as far as I know, this practice has never been presented to the public in a form that's actually doable. I hope you enjoy the powerful dhyāna of the fire wheel taught in the first section of Tantrasāra Chapter 5. The fifth day. Now we learn the individual embodied method, ānava-upāya. When one's understanding of reality has the capacity to become refined and perfected all by itself, without the need for any other methods, then, dispensing with the dualistic practices of those initiates still bound by limited view, through the grace of pure wisdom, Shuddha Vidya, that understanding becomes an expression of the highest divinity's power, Parameshwara Shakti. When this process is taken up and relied upon as one's primary method, it causes the manifestation of empowered realization. This has been explained in Chapter 4. But when, as is most commonly the case, one's understanding requires another method for the sake of its refinement and perfection, then, relying on those supports that have a specifically defined and limited nature, such as the imagination, the vital energy, the body, ritual vessels, and so on, one enters fully into one's individuated expression of divinity, thereby causing individuated realization to manifest. ānava-jñāna, or ānava-samavesha. In this embodied method, there are 5 basic practices. The practice based on imagination is meditative visualization, dhyāna. The practice based on the vital energy, or prāṇa, is of 2 kinds, being more and less subtle. Of these 2, the slightly less subtle one is the practice of uccāra, consisting of the movements of the 5 vital winds. The subtler version of this practice, which I will explain, is alluded to by the word phoneme in our source text. The practice based on the body consists of particular poses denoted by the word karaṇa. Finally, ritual vessels and so on refers to external objects utilized in the various kinds of pūjā: the vase, the platform, the linga or image, and so on, all of which will be discussed in due course. Practice number 1, meditative visualization, dhyāna. Of these, first I will teach the most suitable and delightful way of engaging the faculty of the imagination. The meditative visualization I received from my Sadguru, Shambhunatha. Above it was taught that the highest reality is the self-revealing light of consciousness that inheres within all the principles of being, manifesting their full spectrum. In this practice, one meditates on that very reality within the fundamental awareness that is one's own heart, then meditates there on the fusion of moon, sun, and fire, understanding them to be the cognized, the act of cognition, and the cognizer respectively. Meditate in this way until the fire of Mahabhairava arises, its nature inflamed by the wind of this meditation. Details of the practice. First, one must select an external sense object to work with. Then, one should imagine Mahabhairava as a wheel of fire with 12 flaming spokes, corresponding to the 12 powers. Then imagine that wheel issuing forth from one or another of the apertures of the body, eye, ear, and so on, and coming to rest on the external perceptible object. While the fire wheel rests on the object, first one contemplates it as permeated with the energy of emission in the form of lunar light, then illumined with the energy of stasis in the form of solar light, then dissolved again with the fire light of the phase of resorption. Then one should meditate on it as merged with the absolute ground of the cycle of cognition, the nameless, one's own ultimate identity. Thus, the wheel becomes totally filled and complete with the non-dual reality of all external things. Then one should meditate on the subtle impression that remains of the object of one's contemplation, doing the same to it with the wheel. As the wheel dissolves the vasana of the object, it slows its rotation until it comes to a stop. Meditate on the motionless wheel as the absolute stillness between the cycles of cognition. One who practices this meditative visualization repeatedly discovers that the cycle of emission, stasis, and resorption is in truth nothing but the natural expression of one's own consciousness, and furthermore discovers that the highest reality of that consciousness is its free and independent exercise of these powers of emission and so on. One who fully realizes this immediately becomes Bhairava, the awe-inspiring power of consciousness. And through repeated practice, one may actualize all desired powers and attainments, as well as liberation. Summary verses for the fire wheel dhyāna. Having internalized the trinity of knower, knowing, and known, one should meditate on it as the self-luminous reality that is the essence of all, abiding within the radiant abode of bliss in the heart. One should meditate on that all-pervasive divine reality as the Lord of the wheel, with rays of light that are the 12 great powers, flowing forth from the openings of the body toward an external object, becoming its emission, stasis, reabsorption, and the nameless ground of that cycle. The yogi should contemplate the totality of external objects and their internal impressions as absorbed into that wheel, which then comes to rest in himself as its ground. Thus proceeds the illumination of one's true nature. Since Abhinavagupta's words are perhaps by themselves not sufficient to convey the practice, here is a guided meditation of the fire wheel dhyāna. First, select an object of some significance to you, either a visual object or a continuous sound that will last for the duration of the meditation, or a scent that will remain for the duration. Once you have your object, settle in your seat. Take a few deep breaths. Become aware of the heart region as the confluence of 3 primary channels: the lunar left channel, the solar right channel, and the central channel of pure energy, all meeting and mingling in the heart. Repeatedly inhale to the heart region and hold the breath there as long as you comfortably can, each time, until you feel heat and intensity in that region. If you don't yet feel the heat and intensity in the heart region, you can pause the recording and continue to inhale to the heart and hold the breath there each time until you feel it. This is the fire of Mahabhairava. Contemplate the pure unity of that energy. Noticing there's no separation of knower and known here. No separation of experience and experiencer. Just pure intensity. Form this energy in the heart into a 12-spoked wheel of fire. That pulses, glows, and rotates. Next, you will exhale the wheel of fire to the external object. If the object is visual, the wheel rises from the heart and passes out through the eye. If it is auditory, the wheel passes out through the ear, and so on. Exhale the fire wheel. It comes to rest on the object, flaming and rotating. It becomes one with the object, which is now scarcely visible in the midst of the fire wheel. Imagine the fire wheel turns white in color, like the moon. This energy creates the perceptible object and all perceptible objects. Then it turns yellow, like the sun. Yellowy orange. It makes the object remain for as long as it does. And it makes all things remain for as long as they do. Then the wheel turns into blue fire and dissolves the object completely, devouring it into its blue flames. This energy dissolves everything sooner or later. Now contemplate the object as completely merged with the absolute ground of pure potentiality. Contemplate that you are that very ground in your deepest nature. Now bring into awareness the subtle impression of the object. The feeling, the memory of it, its imprint in your being. Repeat the entire process with this subtle imprint. The lunar version of the wheel creates it. The solar version sustains it. And the blue fire wheel dissolves it. As the subtle impression dissolves, the wheel slows its rotation. And finally comes to a stop, like frozen blue fire. The impression is gone. Everything is gone. There's only sacred silence. Stay with the profound stillness. Optionally, you can repeat the entire process, but this time with the entire visual field instead of a single object, or the entire auditory field, or the entire world of perceptibles. This concludes the guided version of the fire wheel dhyāna, the first of the practices taught in the Essence of Tantra by Abhinavagupta, Chapter 5. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Remember, you can always find out more about the tradition of non-dual Shaiva Tantra at tantrailluminated.org, where, if you wish, you can become a subscriber to our online learning portal, and you'll receive access to a vast number of recordings, including a comprehensive curriculum in tantric philosophy, tantric yoga, guided meditation, and much, much more. Music for the podcast composed and recorded by Ann Leader. Find her at annleader.com. Podcast produced by Grazia Tribulato. New episodes drop every week, and may all beings benefit.